Flying into Kampala, the capital of Uganda, was a beautiful experience. The plane banked over the Lake Victoria, one of Africa's Great Lakes. The combination of the deep blue water against the red soil and lush green vegetation was astounding to see. The hemophilia organization in Uganda is run by a wonderful woman named Agnes. She is a force of nature that is determined to build more equitable care for patients with hemophilia in our country. Our first home visit of the day was a long journey. In our private van, it took 5 hours to drive to the eastern region of the country, past wildlife and gorgeous views. We were going to visit 2 brothers with hemophilia. They lived in an extremely small home with their mother and sister. A communal well was their only source of water. As the boys started having more bleeding issues, their father left. And with him, the family income left as well. Their mother tried to work when she could. But between taking the bus to the hospital for the boys' bleeds and managing the household, holding down a job was difficult. Keeping her kids in school is where her smiles shine through. Some of the funds she received from the Save One Life sponsorship paid for school fees and school uniforms. We accompanied the boys along the short walk to their school. It wasn't very far, but they already had significant joint damage, even though they were only 8 and 10 years old. The walk wasn't easy, but school was important. You could see it in their eyes. This was their path to having any success in life. They needed to continue their education. Being employed as a farmer or a day laborer was out of the question. They wouldn't be able to withstand the demands of those jobs with their joint pain, and the amount of income generated wouldn't cover the additional costs of living with hemophilia. Education was the key to break out of the cycle the family was in. It was the driving hope that someday the boys would be okay. So what role can education play in giving the future to those with bleeding disorders around the globe? And how can we provide it to them and make it both easier to access and financially feasible? My name is Chris Bombardier, and I'm a mountaineer with hemophilia. From 2011 to 2018, I successfully climbed the 7 summits, the tallest mountain on each of the 7 continents. But when that journey was over, I realized my next adventure was just beginning. I soon began my advocacy work with Save One Life to bring help, compassion, and resources to the bleeding disorder community around the world. And most importantly, learn from them about the challenges they face and what we can do to educate and help. Global healthcare is full of its own peaks and valleys. And if there's anything I learned climbing the 7 summits, it's that there's always another mountain to climb. This is the final summit, Season 2, The World After the Mountains.
This next segment is brought to you by Genentech. Genentech understands the importance of keeping people in the hemophilia community informed about their condition. To help with this, they've created a community for connection, information, and support. For more opportunities to meet and connect with community members like yourself, please visit www.hemophiliacommunity.com.
Agnes, could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Agnes Kisache, and I work with the Hemophilia Foundation of Uganda as the Executive Secretary. And again, one of the founders. We started the foundation with my brother, whose child is factor 9 deficient. And we've moved our journey by supporting my own nephew, but again, also supporting other patients with the condition in my country, in Uganda. Yeah, so I've worked with the foundation for quite some time. It is over 10 years, although the journey of hemophilia started with my own nephew in 2004 when we saw him with symptoms of bleeding and we didn't know what was really happening with his life until he had 2 surgeries on the brain. Of course, that time it was really difficult for us because we didn't know what he was suffering from until an old hematologist advised us to conduct a test in South Africa to ascertain the deficiency or any other bleeding disorder that was causing the bleeding. Spontaneous bleeds, he used to have bruises, so many things that were happening with him. So when we conducted a test, we found that he was factor 9 deficient. Of course, it was very new to the family, it was new to everyone, even the health workers, because they didn't know that hemophilia existed in my country. It was known to be a white man's disease. So this was a bit trying time moment for the health workers, for the family, because no one would advise appropriately until we got in touch with Save One Life, with Lori Carey. So when we got the treatment from Save One Life, it was a miracle that we never expected to see my nephew gaining back his health, because he used to experience a lot of pain. Every family member was crying because of the pain that my nephew was going through. The father was crying, the mother was crying. Every family member was concerned, because we never thought of any relief that would come to us. That's when we thought about formalizing and registering an organization to find ways of supporting and identifying other patients in the country.
I know another aspect of helping patients in Uganda for you is making sure that they are able to stay in school. Why do you find that so important for patients with hemophilia in Uganda?
We have seen significant difference among in these particular families where children are kept now in school. First of all, it has given them positive thinking. Before, they thought hemophilia has put them down and they can never be productive in the society. But now they are thinking in a different direction. They know they can be responsible people, they can turn out to be leaders, they can support other children. That positive thinking is as a result of the knowledge they've acquired in school. They'll be able to make better life choices with the knowledge. They're able to acquire skills, those that have gone up to university. They'll be able to apply the knowledge and support even their communities, because we need productive citizens. I think this kind of education instills them a sense of social responsibility. They are able to be responsible citizens. Without education, it might be very hard.
Can you give us an example of what it would mean for these families not to have access to this education? What would it look like for, say, a young boy with hemophilia in Uganda without that?
Let me just give you an example of some of the beliefs that we have in my country, cultural beliefs. Many times families thought hemophilia is witchcraft, but when they get some bit of information, they are able to distinguish between witchcraft and medical conditions. Those patients out there who haven't been exposed even in school, because sometimes when we are in school, we get that bit of exposure. We are able to interact with other members who might have other conditions. So if a child doesn't have that kind of exposure in the school community, they may not be able to distinguish between medical condition or a cultural issue, something that is to do with witchcraft. They will always think about hemophilia as witchcraft or anything, or so many cultural attachments that are put on chronic conditions. But at least with this education, someone is able to distinguish between medical, cultural, and is able to speak for himself that no, mommy, this is not a cultural disease, it's a medical condition. They're able to speak for themselves because they've been exposed, they know what it means. So I think getting education is really important.
I think if we manage to give people, not just practitioners, but people, the necessary tools to peel back the whys, that is, the reasons why they do things the way they do, and the reasons why the system works.
This is Carlos Guzman.
If we give people the necessary tools in order to be able to peel back what is behind this decision, to peel back what is behind this policy, to peel back why am I doing X, Y, Z? If we manage to give people that critical perspective, I think we'll start noticing that there will be a sort of awakening of society that will lead to what we call in planetary health, the great transformation, in which we start thinking about our future through a narrative of hope and well-being.
I think getting up to that higher level gives them a chance to get to do professional courses, and they'll be able to be employed. There'll be, some of them are pharmacists. I think some of the beneficiaries, Emma is a pharmacist. We have IT specialists. So it helps them to meet this competitive world where they need professionalism in most of these jobs that we seek. So getting up to that higher level puts them in a better position to compete for better jobs, white-collar jobs, not doing these dirty jobs, because they may not be able to earn something. And they may not also, again, with their physique and so on, they will not be able to be productive. So they will be able to compete for better opportunities.
What changes have you seen in their emotional makeup by going through school, these scholarship recipients?
A very significant change. Some of these children were traumatized. They never thought about speaking even before the public, but now their esteem is high. They speak confidently. I'm proud of them that they've really changed. If I give you an example of one of our beneficiaries, Peter, who never wanted to share his story because of the stigma in his community, today he comes out of the public and he speaks for himself without even pushing him. He's the one who will ask you to participate in an interview. He's ready to apply for a job, to do an interview with any other person. That wasn't the case before. So education is very important. It has really changed these children's mindset, and they are very confident.
The goal becomes well-being. Well-being not just of now, but well-being of the future. And that requires us to look deep down on things like our relationship with nature, our relationship with our natural resources, our relationship with our governments, our relationship with our democracies, our relationship amongst each other. So I'm hopeful, and I am a hopeful one, and this is part of what I teach, is how do we shift that understanding? How do we peel those layers back so we can reveal the values that are driving all those things? Because I believe that at the core of all decisions are values, whether good ones or bad ones. But we can only understand how to shift towards a better value system once we've unmasked the value system that is at place. So for me, that is my hope, that we can provide the people with the necessary skills to be able to peel back and look at the value systems and shift that towards a better experience for well-being for all, for ourselves, but also for generations to come.
It's important to acknowledge that better education doesn't just mean more access to schools for underprivileged communities, or even raising awareness around the globe. It's also crucially important to stay educated yourself, and not in that social media way of educate yourself, but by actively pursuing your passions and opening your mind to new opportunities. While I was climbing the 7 summits, I realized that my journey was more than just the mountains. Going to these different countries opened my eyes to the disparities in the world and got me interested in global health. But a passion is a passion. I wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing and that I was going into it with my eyes open. So I went back to school and got my master's in global health from Northwestern. I learned a lot while I was climbing the world, but there are certain things I could not have learned on the streets. I needed to learn them in the classroom. Philosophies, practical ideas, the policies that have worked in the past. All of these lessons helped me approach my role at Save One Life with a new vigor and a much better understanding. Education is wide and varied, and we never stop learning. One of the keys to helping others in the world is making sure you are equipped with the right tools, the right classes, and the right ideas to both expand your mind and make the world a better place. Can you talk about what inspired you to further your education and what your hopes and goals were with that?
I said it's a dream fulfilled. When I was enrolling for my undergraduate degree for social work and social administration, I very much wanted to become a doctor, but I didn't do sciences at my high school, at HSC. So when I did social work, I had a passion to work with people and change people's mindset. And I think I had that calling to serve communities. Despite of being a doctor or a medical person, I have continued to support medical patients, people with medical related issues. So every time I met different stakeholders, I could find myself in a position where I'm supposed to speak like an expert, where I'm supposed to advocate for patients. Technically, like I really needed knowledge to meet any different stakeholders. But sometimes it limited me because, it is natural. When you're at some level of education, you may not be able to confidently meet a minister. It might be a bit scary, but I had to push on, to keep pushing with even my social work undergrad and knowledge and skills that I was picking from different communities of hemophilia. So when I got a chance to go for my master's in public health, it was a very great opportunity. It gave me a chance to get add-on knowledge, and today I'm able to speak with authority because I have acquired knowledge. I've interacted with different people in different fields or different areas of practice. It puts me in a better position to meet different stakeholders and advocate better for the hemophilia community.
I love that. And I think you're such a wonderful advocate for that community in Uganda. I've seen it firsthand, and we're immensely proud of you for getting that master's degree. My final question is, what are your hopes for the young people in Uganda that have hemophilia? Hope for them in the future?
My hope is that they will carry on the work. They will carry on what we started. We may not be leaders forever, but I see them in a position where they will be able to support other patients at their time, even the future generation. They will be able to support others because we are trying to groom them. We are trying to nurture them with skills and knowledge to be able to support even better than us. So that is my hope. Not to only look out to cater for themselves, but to be able to support even other patients in their generations and support them better than even us. So we are grooming future leaders to carry on the work, to be responsible citizens, even without hemophilia. They can be future leaders, even in their communities, in different areas. They are competent people, they are normal children, and they should pass on that message even to the future generation.
And I think you're doing that fantastically. I've met quite a few of the graduates of the scholarship program that are going to definitely be wonderful leaders for your community. So thank you for all your hard work, Agnes. I think it's really important to note that none of Save One Life's programs would be able to happen without partners like you in your community in Uganda. So thank you for dedicating your life to helping others with this chronic medical condition.
I'm very sure that we shall have greater leaders who will contribute meaningfully to their societies. Let us keep mentoring them and supporting them to be very responsible citizens and contribute meaningfully to the society. And I want to thank all our sponsors out there. Thank you so much for the kindness. Without your support, it might have been hard, even for Save One Life, to pass on these funds to us. Thank you so much. And the entire team at Save One Life, thank you so much for your tireless efforts to ensure that the program are sustainable.
Education is the first step towards a brighter future, not just for the young men and women with bleeding disorders who can use that education to secure a better job, one that can provide them with the care they need without the joint damage and pain that might come with manual labor, but also education about bleeding disorders, about the truth surrounding them, can better help all of us, leaders, parents, and friends. Learning and understanding the truth and empathizing with these conditions can lead to profound change. It's not always easy, facing hard truths rarely is. While education can be an escape for those facing tough futures, it doesn't always work out, especially with the harsh realities of living with hemophilia and limited resources. One of the two brothers I met in Uganda when I visited a few years ago, the young man so determined to go to school and find a way out, unfortunately came face to face with those realities. A short while after we met, he suffered a head bleed, and he passed away before he could reach care. It's painful to talk about, and a tragedy to think what might have been. But this is the reality so many living with hemophilia have to deal with all over the world. And it's a truth we have to acknowledge as we're looking for change. Access to education and the promise of tomorrow can be the balm that we need to continue on, to protect the future and hope for the best. Next week, we travel back to Africa and talk with Maureen Maruka from Nairobi, Kenya, about the difference gender makes in recognizing and treating hemophilia.
How taken in I was, how surprised, how messed up I was to see. This is a common story amongst so many women.
I'm Chris Bombardier. Until next time, keep climbing your own mountain.
The final summit is produced by BloodStream Media. Learn more at bloodstreammedia.com. This episode is hosted by Chris Bombardier, written by Drew Johnson, edited by Greg Bernard, produced by Keith Corneluk, executive produced by Patrick James Lynch. The final summit was also made possible by support from Genentech. Visit genentechhemophilia.com to take a look at how they are supporting the hemophilia community.